How did my birthday party turn into a crime scene in less than 20 minutes? I keep replaying those 20 minutes in my mind, trying to find the exact moment when everything shifted, when laughter curdled into panic, when music became sirens, and when my birthday party became a crime scene. It's strange how fast a celebration can turn into an investigation, how quickly a moment meant to mark another year of life can instead remind you just how fragile that life really is. The day had started so beautifully, the kind of day that tricks you into believing that nothing bad could possibly happen. The sun was warm but not harsh, the sky stretched endlessly clear, and every tiny detail of the party had gone exactly as planned. The white lights we strung around the backyard shimmered in the early evening glow. Balloons, soft and pale, swayed gently in the breeze. There was laughter drifting from the kitchen, the faint hum of music, the smell of vanilla and wine and freshly cut grass. I remember feeling light that evening, weightless almost. Everyone was there, friends from college, coworkers, neighbors who smiled too politely, my sister with her camera already snapping photos I'd never get to see again. Even my parents had driven down, their faces soft with pride as they watched me move between clusters of people, pretending I wasn't anxious about turning another year older. For a while, everything felt perfectly ordinary. Ordinary in the way you only notice when it's too late to appreciate it. I floated through my own party, a glass of champagne in hand, the air rich with music and laughter. Someone brought out a cake that looked too perfect to eat, lavender frosting, golden edges. I smiled for photos, blew out candles, made the kind of wish that now feels painfully naive. And then, somewhere between a toast and a laugh, something shifted. It started small, barely noticeable. A chill that didn't belong. The kind that moves through a crowd unnoticed at first, carried on the edge of instinct. I remember scanning the yard, trying to locate the source of my unease, but everything looked the same. The lights still twinkled. The music still played. My friends still laughed, unaware that the air itself had thickened. The first real sign came with the smell. It was faint at first, metallic, sharp, out of place. I thought maybe something had spilled, or maybe it was just the candle wax burning unevenly. But then the sound came. A crash, sharp and sudden, from somewhere near the side gate. Everyone froze. It's strange how silence can feel louder than sound. For a few seconds, the music kept playing, soft, cheerful, mocking the stillness that had settled over us. Then someone turned it off, and all that remained was the creak of wood, the faint rustle of movement, and my heartbeat, heavy and slow. The lights flickered once, twice, then held steady. Someone laughed nervously. I remember that, because laughter, in that moment, sounded like denial. The breeze carried something else now. A heaviness, the faint scent of earth, mixed with something older, darker. I couldn't tell if it was fear or intuition, but every nerve in my body felt alert. My hand tightened around my glass until it slipped from my fingers and shattered against the patio. The sound echoed far longer than it should have. And then came the scream. Not mine, not anyone close to me. It came from somewhere beyond the garden lights, somewhere in the dark stretch of lawn that bordered the woods. It lasted only a moment, but it was enough. Enough to snap everyone into motion. Enough to end the illusion that this was just another night. The next few minutes blurred together, fragments of panic stitched together by the sound of rushing footsteps and rising voices. Someone ran toward the sound. Someone else shouted for the lights. Someone called the police. And I stood there, frozen in my own backyard, unable to move, watching the world collapse around a cake that still smelled like sugar and happiness. When the sirens came, they painted everything in blue and red, the colors of aftermath. They sliced through the music that had once filled the air, turning celebration into chaos. The lights flickered again, weaker this time, as if even they understood what had changed. The police moved quickly, asking questions, marking spaces, setting boundaries that didn't exist minutes ago. The word crime scene felt foreign, impossible. It didn't belong in my vocabulary, not here, not on my birthday, not in the backyard that had held my laughter just moments before. But that's the thing about moments. They can be stolen from you before you realize they're gone. I tried to remember everything, every face, every movement, every sound. But the memory plays back like an old tape, skipping, warping, refusing to stay still. And somewhere deep down, I know that no matter how many times I replay it, I'll never find the moment when celebration became tragedy. I found myself standing near the broken glass again, the faint reflection of lights flickering across its jagged surface. My face looked older, harsher, drawn into unfamiliar lines. I thought about how quickly innocence can be stripped away, not just from a person, but from a place. The sound of rain began to fall softly, almost politely, as if nature itself was trying not to disturb the investigation. It carried the smell of wet earth, mixing with the metallic tang still clinging to the air. Drops fell onto the cake, smearing the frosting, blurring my name until it was unreadable. And that's when I realized my birthday would forever be marked not by the number of candles, but by the evidence collected under their glow. Somewhere inside the house, the clock chimed midnight. A new day. Technically, I was older now, but the version of me that had made a wish over that cake was gone. Time lost its meaning after the sirens arrived. It didn't move forward, it bled. Every second seemed to drag, stretching thin and cold, like the air itself had forgotten how to breathe. The police spread across the yard, their flashlights cutting through the dark, white beams trembling against the soft glow of birthday lights that refused to die. People whispered in clusters, their faces pale under the shimmer of broken balloons and half-empty glasses. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear a voice reciting details to an officer. Sharp, factual, detached. I couldn't understand the words. They floated around me like static, dissolving before they reached my ears. The smell of smoke mixed with perfume and sugar. The cake still sat untouched, its candles bent and dripping, tiny pools of wax hardening like small melted graves. My name was still written across the top in gold frosting. The sight of it felt cruel now, mocking. A celebration frozen mid-breath. The sound of camera shutters began to dominate the air. Mechanical, repetitive, capturing what used to be my home. Every flash illuminated something I didn't want to see. Footprints in the soil, spilled wine that looked too much like blood, a shattered bracelet glinting near the steps. The officers moved with quiet precision. Their movements practiced, rehearsed. This wasn't their first scene, but it was mine. At some point, someone draped a blanket over my shoulders. I didn't feel it. The fabric was heavy, foreign, the kind of comfort that feels like control. My fingers trembled, sticky with something I couldn't identify. Champagne or fear or both. I stared at my reflection in a piece of broken glass, trying to recognize the person staring back. I thought of how it had all started. Laughter, warmth, the faint hum of happiness. It didn't seem possible that those same sounds had existed in the same space, only minutes apart. I wondered if the universe ever gave warnings, or if the signs were always there, invisible until it was too late to read them. The night grew colder, though the air was still. My guests were questioned one by one, their voices blending into a chorus of confusion and denial. Each face looked slightly different now, strained, hollow. Every smile from earlier felt artificial in retrospect, every glance suspicious. It was terrifying how quickly trust eroded under fluorescent light and the weight of accusation. Somewhere near the gate, yellow tape fluttered like a thin scar cutting through the darkness. It made everything feel smaller, contained, yet impossibly vast. The flashing lights painted the world in staccato color. Blue, red, blue again, like a heartbeat struggling to stay alive. I kept thinking about that scream, the way it had sliced through laughter like a blade through silk. I couldn't remember who had made it. I couldn't even tell if it had been male or female. All I remembered was the silence that followed, that vacuum of sound that felt almost sacred. The lead investigator moved methodically, his expression unreadable, his notepad catching brief glimpses of light. I watched him crouch near the flower bed, where the grass was darker, pressed down. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't stop myself. I didn't see the body, not fully, just fragments, shapes, colors that my brain refused to assemble. And then I realized something horrifying. The scream hadn't been the start. It had been the end. Whatever had happened had already taken place by the time we noticed. Those 20 minutes were not a countdown to chaos. They were the aftermath of something that had already died quietly among us. That thought lodged itself inside me like a shard of ice. I tried to piece together everything from before. The laughter, the toasts, the faces illuminated by candlelight. There had been tension earlier, small but tangible. Glances that lingered too long. Words that hung too heavy. I hadn't paid attention. I'd been too busy pretending that everything was perfect. The questions grew sharper, more precise. Where had I been standing? Who had I last seen near the gate? Did anyone leave, even for a minute? I answered mechanically, my voice flat, like I was narrating someone else's life. Each answer felt like a thread pulling tighter around my chest. As the night deepened, the crowd thinned. Some guests were allowed to go home, others weren't. The backyard, once bright and alive, now looked like a stage after a show. The decorations still hanging, the confetti limp and colorless, the audience gone. Only the officers remained, their presence heavy and deliberate. I found myself standing near the broken glass again, the faint reflection of lights flickering across its jagged surface. My face looked older, harsher, drawn into unfamiliar lines. I thought about how quickly innocence can be stripped away, not just from a person, but from a place. The sound of rain began to fall softly, almost politely, as if nature itself was trying not to disturb the investigation. It carried the smell of wet earth, mixing with the metallic tang still clinging to the air. Drops fell onto the cake, smearing the frosting, blurring my name until it was unreadable. And that's when I realized my birthday would forever be marked not by the number of candles, but by the evidence collected under their glow. Somewhere inside the house, the clock chimed midnight. A new day. Technically, I was older now. But the version of me that had made a wish over that cake was gone. Thank you for listening to Tale Hub. If this story held you until the end, make sure to subscribe for more tales that linger long after they're told. And remember, sometimes the scariest moments begin with a celebration.